Hey everyone, welcome to my office desk setup video. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I woke up really early, couldn't really sleep, so I got this desk the day before and wanted to get it set up. I took everything out already, just going through the equipment, taking it all out. Getting old, so I needed a little chair to help me out, so that I can go through this a little easier without sitting on the ground. Just reviewing a little bit of the manual just to kind of get an idea of what I need to do to get started. Just laying out the pieces before I put it together. That way it's just a little easier to work with. Once the pieces are laid out, I went and grabbed the wooden dowels to put in the slots that are available, so that I can piece the boards together. Once the boards were pieced together, I grabbed the brackets to screw them down. It comes with 4 brackets, one for each side. They didn't come with one in the middle. I'm assuming since the dowels hold them together, the brackets on the side will put it together. The color I chose was kind of the only one available for the price range. I paid like $197 for this standing desk. It was on the lower cost, and I wanted it all black, but this was priced lower than most. I thought about buying just the legs and then purchase my own desktop, but it was a lot more expensive. The legs were $200 by itself, and then you still gotta get the top of the desk, which was probably another $100-$200 based on what I've been looking for. So this was a little bit easier to work with. See right here, I'm just going through screwing the brackets onto the board. It did come with a little Allen key tool for you to use, but it was easier for me to just use my tool. Although when I started using the Allen key for other areas, I don't think it really benefited me much. And you just gotta be careful with the drills because you could over torque your screws into the slots. But right here, I'm just put it in not all the way, just so that you have some room to play with on the brackets, because once you tighten and you can't move things around, it gets harder to work with. So just working on the other side now with tightening up and using the same method. Once I had all the screws in on the other side, I came back and tightened up all the screws on the right side here. Once the top of the desk was assembled, I went ahead and started working on the legs of the desk. I'm just going through here, loosening up the screws in the middle that holds the legs together, just so I have some room to play with on the legs, so it makes it easier to mount it on the legs themselves. I was starting to have a hard time right here, trying to figure out how the legs went on, well, how the brackets that holds the legs together went on the legs itself. Had to reference the manual. The instructions wasn't very clear. After putting this together, you just had to follow the alignments on the bars to the legs. So once you review that, it goes in together pretty well. But I did put it on incorrectly at first, and then later on I had to go undo it and correct the bars that goes across the legs. So after reviewing the instructions, I just decided to go ahead and screw it in. You know, you can always redo it if you mess up later on. It just takes a lot more extra work than doing it correctly the first time. Once I put the screw in on the other side, I just put the screw in on this side, just getting you a closer look at putting it in. You see here, I couldn't use my drill anymore. The depth was too deep, and I don't believe my extension bit was able to get down because that hole was pretty small. So I had to rely on using the Allen key that was provided in the box. The nice thing about this Allen key is like the short end of the Allen key was actually pretty long, so you could use it to get leverage on bolting down the Allen key. And then here I'm just going back to the other side to tighten it. Again, you know, just going through, making sure all the screws go in before tightening anything. Always do that to give you some play. That way you don't have to loosen up any screws and then retightening it. So I've set up the other one. I put the second bar on here. Now I'm just going through repeating the steps to screw in the second bar going across the legs. Always got to go back to the instructions, make sure you're doing it correctly and looking at the next steps. So next steps are putting the legs on the bottom, so that you have some stability. This part was pretty straightforward. There was alignment on there, and then you just had to put the legs on. These legs had some angles at the end, so they're not squared. You just had to look at the alignment of the instructions, so make sure you put it on correctly. And this was a pretty straightforward process. Put on one leg and then do the other same steps. So it does come with floor levelers or wheels. I was gonna put the floor levelers on first, but then decided to go with wheels because I want to be able to roll the desk around for adjustments if needed. I mean, these levelers would also been fine, but I just didn't want them, and so I opted for the wheels instead. So the wheels came with a pretty low profile wrench, which was hard to grab. So I went to my set of tools to grab one. This was a 1/2 inch and it didn't go onto the nut of the wheel really well, but it was enough to give it some tension so I could spin it and then grab the wrench that actually came with. I think if I went and grabbed a 13 millimeter wrench instead of the 1/2 inch, I probably would have had it working, but I couldn't find my 13 millimeter wrench, so I just grabbed what I saw. And the wrench just has a taller profile, so it was easier to grab the little nut on the wheel versus the tool that was provided, because the wrench that was provided was a really low profile wrench, because you needed it to be low profile so you can get to it once the wheel is tightened onto the legs of the desk. Finish the other side, so just going through the same steps on this side. Finally finished with all the wheels, and now just gotta stand it upright. And right before I was going to set it up, I had already fixed the other side, but wanted to show you, this is where I had to redo the bars going across the legs because I had it upside down, trying to follow the diagram, but it didn't really make sense. And so the brackets were still angled off a little bit. It wasn't matching up and wasn't tight enough on it, so I just went and loosened it up and redid the whole bar. And once I put it back together, it was there was a total difference. You could see that it was actually level with the top of the legs now, versus earlier it was kind of curved at an angle and wasn't really level. So after you put the legs together, there's these two brackets, one on each side, to help hold the tabletop up for the desk. And this is also pretty straightforward. There's a little notch on that bracket that you just have to hold it in place and then put on the screws. Pretty straightforward process right here. Nothing too crazy. Pretty simple steps. Throughout this whole process, you could just use the one Allen key that it came with. I don't believe there's any other screws that came with this. The one Allen key was able to screw in everything. So same process on the other side. For the brackets, there was 4 screws that goes in once you get it aligned and screwed in. So each side has 4 to help stabilize the tabletop. Once the brackets are on, it's time to flip the legs upside down and put the screw it onto the tabletop. So the instruction does say put the legs onto the tabletop in this format. I thought about putting the tabletop on top of the legs, but it's not sturdy the way it is. Those brackets that are on the tabletop are actually just plastic brackets, so they're not even metal. If you lift it where the 2 black pieces are, it'll wobble off the tabletop. So it is best to flip the legs onto the tabletop. Then as I was doing this, I noticed something that was off. And so right here I was adjusting the legs to make sure that the holes were aligned. Because I messed around with the legs, you'll see here there's these holes that the garments was off center, and so I had to make adjustment to make sure that those garments were in place so that it lines up, because that's part of the areas where you have to screw down onto the tabletop. So right here, I was just adjusting the length of the legs to make sure it matches the holes that was available on the tabletop. But still kept the crossbars loose enough that I can still make adjustments if needed. And then everything else is pretty straightforward. You line up the holes to the holes on the tabletop, and then you put screws into everything. Once you put screws into everything, then you just tighten it down. Before fully tightening it down, you need the arms that goes across from the motor to the other side that helps lifts up the legs for the standing desk. So this desk only has one motor. You could definitely hear the motor running as it lifts up the table up and down. But for me, it doesn't bother me for how it looks and the way it operates for the price that I got it for. I was able to do this by myself, but if you don't think you can lift this up, get some help. And you see it was easy to move it around with the wheels. All right, now time to mount up the controller and the power module for controlling the motor and the module to push the buttons to make it move up and down. So these holes were already pre-drilled. There's a thread located in that location, so you don't have to drill into the wood itself. Everything is already pre-made there for you. Finishing that, now it's time to mount on the controllers. So the nice thing about this is that those two slots right there, the manufacturer actually have that all around four sides of the table. So if you accidentally put it in a different way, there's still slots that will allow you to screw it in, so you don't actually have to redo everything if you put your tabletop together incorrectly. So now just plugging this controller onto the little power module, and so the motor plugs into this, the controller plugs into this, and the power goes into this module all together, which I thought it was a little weird at first because it didn't make sense where everything was gonna go. But you see that first one I put in, that was the motor, and this little clip right here is actually where the power cord is going to. So it did come with some cable management ties that allows you to clip things together. There's a few that will help you clean things up if you have a simple setup. But I did buy extra cable management stuff to help me with this whole desk build. But just doing some little cleanup right here to make things look nice, so I don't have cables dangling around everywhere. So you can see how the cables is linked up together. I kept the twist ties to hold things together, and then add another cable clip on the other side and stuck it to the tabletop. Then here you see me just testing out the table, make sure everything's working as it is. And this goes up pretty tall. It goes all the way to my chest, and I'm 5'7", so it's about your average height person. And right here is where I kept the tallest height for me and set it as one of the settings. And then here's a close-up shot of what it looks like as you're going up and down. The way you do the presets is just like radio buttons on your car. You just hold on to the number for a few seconds. The controller will beep, and then it'll let you know that you've saved the setting. And then once you save it, you just press the number again, and it'll go back to your presetted height. And then just putting on the finishing touches on the grommets for the 2 holes that's available there. Those are actually nice. I have a bunch of my cables going through there for monitors and things to help keep things nice and neat, so they're not going through the back of the table. As you can see, it's all put together, and my table's not against the wall how other people might have set it up. I actually wanted to set up this way because as you walk into the room, I'm able to see everyone. And then here, just showing you, there's still a lot of parts and things that I didn't use. You can see the legs, the leveling legs. There's the basket and 2 J brackets to hang bags or your headsets. I didn't use those either because it didn't match with what I was trying to go for. If they were black, I probably would have put it on, but they weren't, so I just skipped that. Thank you guys for watching. I'm doing another video of how I set up my desk with my monitors. I have monitor arms, my desktop, keyboard, mouse. So catch you guys in the next one.